So my name is Irina Tandel, and I was born in one of the Soviet republics. Right now it's called Belarus. And when I was 2.5, then I moved to Russia, and that's where I stayed till 26, till I finally came here. And I was 15 years old when the Soviet Union stopped existing. So where I lived was southern part of Russia, I would say. Yeah, closer to the Caucasus, the Black Sea, so south of Moscow. Yes, life in Moscow. Moscow was and still is like a country within a country. So, because it's a center of everything, and so during the Soviet Union, and even still right now, so everything which was collected from all the 15 former Soviet republics, it would all go there. You know, they would distribute it the way they wanted. And so many of the things, obviously, they kept for themselves. They leaked and stuff. So whichever country was rich in whatever resources, you know, they would work hard to get that, and, you know, Moscow would accumulate it and then maybe give them small part. So they were very poor while Moscow was very rich. So, and Moscow would decide even if to export some of the things, while, you know, their own people of the country who were poor and needed those things. So, everybody was supposed to be the same, wearing the same clothes, you know, the same haircuts. Like, we were not allowed to listen to any music from abroad, or any even radio stations or movies or books, or even any news. So whatever was happening in other countries, we only learned from whatever our TV would present us, you know, clean, you know, sterilized news. And everybody was equally poor. So people would receive the same salary. I believe, if I remember correctly, it was like, at that point, like, I think it was 120 rubles. They couldn't really save any money. Pretty much they lived from hand to mouth. So, and that was the plan. So I think they kept people equally poor, so, and struggling to survive, so that when people are looking, like, thinking, what are we gonna eat tomorrow, people are too busy surviving, and they don't look up what the government is doing, what laws are being implemented, or what's happening around them. So they would just watch TV and the propaganda, propaganda movies, propaganda music, propaganda news, everything. And then they would just, like robots, go to work, come back. You know, children did not really see their parents. For example, when I would enter the first grade, so if I were to go to school, like, first shift would start at 8 o'clock. Then my parents, they would be gone by then, and so I would have to get ready myself and go. Like, I remember that some people they would buy those basic radios, and they tried to catch, I think it was called Station Voice of America. So they really tried to get some of that. But if you're caught doing that, you know, you could go to prison even. So, or yeah, and for a long time. So yeah, they kept us behind the Iron Curtains. It's kind of like in the North Korea, like when I watched them, like, OMG, you know, if the Soviet Union didn't dissolve, like, we would be there, because there was so many similarities. All this gray mass, the same mentality, the same, like, nobody's smiling, you know, there's no happiness, only brainwashing and stuff. So no freedom of expression, like, different clothes and different hair, like something bold. If you were like that, you would be ridiculed. You could even lose your job and stuff. Because we were also, adults especially, they were part of the Communist Party of that letter, and so there are certain rules, there are certain regulations, and you give an oath, so you can get kicked out of that Soviet Communist Party. And if you are kicked out, then if you're not a member of the Communist Party, then usually you have hard times finding good positions, good jobs. So like maybe you can be doing something like dirty, you will not be able to enter some higher education establishments and stuff like that. There were not that many choices, and again, everybody was pretty much getting the same salary in the Soviet Union. You could be just like a janitor, or great engineer, or maybe a medical worker or a teacher, or just some kind of drunk who is like part-time janitor, partially doing their job but still working, and the same salary, and it wasn't fair. And probably the pilots, maybe they would get like those better jobs. Maybe they would get additional money for doing a good job, but like basic salary was the same throughout. So people didn't have any incentive to work harder, or even like, why would you be studying, for a long time to become like a doctor, a surgeon, or a pilot, to get the same salary as just somebody without any education. It's impossible. I'm just saying it was just enough to buy basic food, basic clothes, and to pay for utilities. But just a very modest lifestyle, maybe just enough to eat. And you have to stretch it. And so both parents had to work. So that's why after that, when you turn 7, when you go to school, you are on your own. You walk to school, or even if you need to take a regular bus, not a school bus, and you come from school, you heat food for yourself or prepare whatever, you do your homework. You're on your own because your parents come in the evening. And so I personally went to 2 schools, like regular school and then music school too, for 7 years. So I had to be independent, and I'm glad that nothing happened to me. So everything was there just to brainwash people, and because there was no information from outside sources, people were supposed to believe that even though they were kind of surviving and had kind of existence there, gray existence, they were supposed to believe that they live in the best country in the whole world, and there's no country like that anywhere else, and they're happy, and their goal is to be good citizens and work hard for the sake of the country, and to be in unity, to be together. That's what unity and together is. So everybody's the same, and everybody's equally poor. Yes, of course they did. Because they couldn't compare, because nobody was allowed to leave the country. Only the elite would leave the country. Simple people, they could not. In order to leave the country, later on they implemented, travel passports. So we all had internal passports as an ID. But to travel, you need an international travel passport. So that's a separate passport you receive. And so even to receive it, they were not giving it to people. So, and they were not allowed to leave. So I don't remember exactly what my age was. 80, it was 82, 83 maybe, or 84, when my parents, for the first time, they won this like a lottery or something. So if you're a good worker, your job can have this kind of like a lottery among good workers, where you have a chance to actually win this ticket to go on a tour to one of the closest European countries. Some countries which were very close to us, and in the way they operate and stuff. So it wouldn't be too much of a difference, people would see. But and so I guess I believe it was Hungary again. I don't remember. I think it was where my parents went. So my parents both won this opportunity to go. So they paid some money, and along with other people, they were on a tour bus going into this country, and that country was even in a more poor condition. Like inflation was so bad, so that whatever money my parents had, which didn't have much, they felt like they were rich in there because they could buy a lot of things there, like much cheaper than they would be in Russia, and they could bring it there. And some of those things were maybe not even available in Russia. So because we had deficit of everything, we only had very, very basic stuff, and everything was made only in Russia. So we were not allowed anything made abroad. So that was their first opportunity to go abroad and see something different. But like I said, not too different, to stop liking their lifestyle and their country, so loving it. We were supposed to love it. No, so the way it was done at that time, nobody could own anything. I mean, that's part of socialistic country, I guess. There's no private ownership of anything. Everything belongs to the government and to all people. So everybody owns everything, but in reality, nobody owns anything, and nobody is responsible for anything. That's why nobody took care of things. So because it wasn't theirs. So and there was no like banking system set up or credit system or anything like that. So like I said, people didn't even have much opportunity. I mean, they couldn't even afford to buy cars. So yeah, so they couldn't even afford a car, not to mention like houses or apartments. I don't even think they were for sale. So the way I think it was set up, for example, for my parents, so they came into that particular town as a young family without any home, and people were lured into places like that when they would start building something new, like power atomic plant. So this town was built around the power atomic plant. So young people, they had an incentive to come in there and start working in this plant. My parents had to drop me off at my grandparents. They were in kilometers, I know, 250 kilometers away from where my parents were, and I was 2.5, and I had to live there with them till I was 4. Nobody explained to me why. I was a child, so it was emotionally very difficult. So, but the reason why I know now is because they came into this newly built town. Even though they were married, they couldn't even live together, so they were given a bed in the rooms in 2 different dorms, men and for women. So they couldn't even live together, being a husband and a wife. So, but they were given a hope that, you know, after working hard. So they had this line. You're waiting in line for your apartment, and so. I don't know, they were given numbers, so, and you would have to work many years till it's your turn. You're next in line to get this. So when they finally received their first apartment, not just a dorm, only then they were able to bring me from my grandparents. And so that was our first apartment. It was an apartment. I'll tell you what it was. Together as a family, finally. And it was free, but you still have to pay for utilities and stuff and wait for a long time. So that was like, ideally, that was a 2-room apartment, not 2-bedroom, just 2-room apartment with a small kitchen and a small bathroom. So bathroom was separate from the toilet room. So and so the 4 of us, because my sister was born by then, so she was 3 years younger, so I was 5, around 4.5, yeah, when we just moved in. So let's say I was 4, my sister was 1, and my parents. We lived in just one room of this 2-room apartment, and there were 4 other people living in the other, even tinier room with a newborn and a boy, I don't know, around 5, 6 he was. So we lived there till we received another. We were in line for a separate apartment, I guess. So I believe we had to live there for maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years at most. So I think maybe a year and a half. So when I was 6, then we finally got our first separate apartment, which was just 1-room apartment. But it was a bigger room, and it was without any other family. So that's where the 4 of us lived, in 1 room, beds next to each other. It was bedroom, living room, study, everything all at once. And I lived there with my parents from 6 till 12. No privacy for my poor parents. No privacy for anybody. So, and then when I was 12, we finally were next in line to receive a normal apartment from the government, which was 3-room apartment. So like usually 1 living room and 2 bedrooms. So, and that's where my mom's still living right now. So, but later on they were, after the Soviet Union dissipated, they were giving people chances to make it privatized, I think it's called, whatever. But you have to pay for it, so like to buy it out, so to make it yours, so you can sell it. Because like when we were living, the previous apartment didn't belong to us, so we would have to renovate everything first of all, like repaint. They were not painting the ceiling, but also put in wallpaper, new wallpaper every time, because it's a government owned apartment, so it needs to be in good order for next people. Healthcare and education, both were free, and they had good doctors. Because we were supposed to be good citizens, good people, good students, and everything. At least, there were good morals there, obviously, but because the salary was not so great, it was the same, so there was no incentive for the doctors to really give specialized care and attention. So they were rude to people, to patients. And for example, if you wanted to get a better treatment, you would have to pay bribes all along to everybody, to the doctors or surgeons or nurses, just for them to even come and see you if you're in pain or whatever. Very often they would ask you, before you need to be hospitalized, you're going to be spending, I don't know, 1 or 2 weeks in hospital, maybe even have a surgery. The doctor would give you a list of medications you were supposed to buy, including syringes and bandages and everything. Like, you would have to bring your own package of stuff with you, at least not a scalpel. And so pain medications if needed, like it was all up to you. And starting at school, so we as children, we belong to the government. So nobody would ask really our parents, notify or even ask for permission to give certain medical procedures to the kids while they were at school. They would come to do this TB skin test, which we know they inject you with stuff, right? They pull you from lessons as a class, so they just come in and say, okay, we're getting TB skin tests, so everybody. So they were not notifying us or our parents or asking permission to sign any papers or our medical condition, if we're allowed or not, any allergies. Nobody was asking that. So they would just come and would say, okay, we're going to nurse, and so they would give it to us. And one of the times I remember I almost passed out. Not that I'm not afraid of needles, like I don't know, maybe some kind of reaction. So that was my first time where I felt like I'm about to pass out. They gave me some stuff to smell some disgusting, stinky stuff, and I was like, I came back to life, so to speak. Nobody even notified my mom about even this reaction, and I told her, I think when I was already older, many years later, and she's like, how come nobody told me about that? So the same goes for dental procedures. So every school would have a nurse room and a dentist room. And somebody would be on staff there all the time, I think. So obviously all kids are afraid of a dentist, so that's why, again, they would not tell us ahead of time or notify our parents or even ask if we need anything. That would be considered normal, like we would go to school, and again, in the middle of the lessons, they would just tell us, okay, you people, your class today is having a dentist appointment. If there were cavities found in you, and I must say that during Soviet Union, we didn't have a very good toothpaste or toothbrushes. They were disgusting. Sometimes we couldn't find a toothpaste, so we would have to use tooth powder, which was very, very abrasive on the teeth, and I had very sensitive teeth. It was painful for me even to brush, and nobody would do cleaning, so there was no preventative care. So obviously many people had cavities, including me. And so when a dentist during this checkup finds if you have cavities, they're not asking you like, would you like to make appointment some other time, to come. No, it will be taken care of right there. Taken care with this old drilling machine, vibrating a lot, and without any anesthesia, without any injections or anything, they would just drill in there. Yes, even if you're a child. So you just open your mouth wide and shut up. So they would be drilling. You can be screaming if you want. They will be calling you like, panicking, whatever. Calling to some names like, shut up, stop, you're there, it's fine, you're almost done. Being members of the Communist Party, instead, after the Soviet Union dissipated, they didn't go anywhere. They just changed their titles. So yeah. So from just Communist Party members, whatever, they had those. So they still, they were the real owners of everything and real bosses of everything, even though they said to us, it all belongs to you, all those fields, all those forests, because they belong to the Soviet people, But in reality, we didn't own that, so we had to work hard on it, and, our labor, everything, the products would go to Moscow, to the bosses and stuff. They would decide what to do with it. When they switch from one system to another, for a while there is a big mess, and of course this mess cannot just, it cannot stay as a vacuum. So this mess was created by criminal groups. So the criminal groups were on the rise, and so because the old system was broken, the new system wasn't built yet, and nobody knew how to do it. So of course criminals came up, and they wanted independence, and they wanted to own things, and so people started trying to be at that point, people started to get their own independent small businesses, companies, organizations and stuff. But these criminal groups, they were connected to the elite. So they were trying to make money doing some criminal activities for themselves, and also getting money from people, people who are trying to be independent, having businesses, and they were allowed to stay there in power, those criminal groups, because they were connected to the at this point they were called militia people. Right now it's police. So they were all together. So the police was part of those criminal groups. They were all intertwined. And so as an example, I know one business owner. He was in his early 30s. He opened a small small shop where he would sell some appliances like washing machines and stuff, maybe microwaves. And so every city, every town, it was divided in the territories of those criminal groups. So if this is the territory of this particular group, people from this group sent to those owners of the business, and they were asked to share. So they were offered protection. So we can give you protection from other groups. So if you give us money. Let's say that person I know of personally, he didn't want to share. So they came again, he didn't want to share. And then one day, and he had a wife and a young child. One day he was coming back home at night and into the entrance of his apartment building. And somebody just shot him. I think this business went to that group, criminal group, just because he didn't want to share. Parallels. Yeah, first of all, I was very shocked to see that people would want socialism or communism in this country, and some people tried to, even my husband, they tried to say that socialism is not the same as communism. They're the same. From what I learned, in order to build communism from, go into communism from capitalism, socialism is that bridge. So temporary bridge. And so we had Communist Party, right, in the country. So we had communism in our country. But he would say, so your country was a communist country, but we're trying to build here a socialist country, you know. I said, it's the same. He's like, no, it's not the same. And it came to me and I said, so what's the, what does USSR stands for? This abbreviation, United Soviet Socialist Republic. So it was a socialistic country, but it had communism as a ruling force. So it's the same thing. And when they give me this, you know, analogy of some of the Scandinavian countries, they have socialism. They're not fully socialistic. They still have free market. We did not have any free market. We were not allowed to own anything. So no private business, no, like I said, we couldn't have apartments or houses. Only the elite, they could have everything. So even right now, with those lockdowns and masks, I can see people lost their humanity. They became so cruel to each other. And that's one of the things which is striking. Before we even build any socialism in this country, I mean, we're on the way, but like already, like people here, when I came, you know, it was such a big contrast, you know, people are smiling, friendly, you know, customer service, everybody polite, like it's out of the door now, like it's gone. And I hope it will come back, but I don't know if it will, because people are in fear, and that's what they did in Russia. So like it was fear, also it was propaganda, also it was where you were busy surviving. So that's how they control you. And so they started with fear here, and so people lost their humanity, their faces, their like politeness and everything. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like so another thing started, like equality, right? This word equality and unity, those two big words. And while we think about it normally as a good thing, and here it's being promoted as a good thing, but it can be also a bad thing, negative thing, because in Russia we were equally poor, and there was no individuality, one big gray, you know, mass of people, herd. So again, no freedom of expression. So right now, no freedom of speech. So like we can see all the censorship going on right now as well, and it's scary. And students not being able to socialize and get to know each other. Like my kids started a new school, and my daughter was going in person, hybrid, 1 week in, 1 week at home, and she would ask me like, I don't want to go to school, I want to stay, you know, at home and do it remotely, because she said, I don't even know anybody there. So like they were not able to see each other's faces, to get close enough to ask their names. So sitting there in a room full of strangers in masks, not even having time to socialize. You know, they already been brainwashed into this, stay away, another person is a threat, or right now, another parallel. So everybody who would try to express themselves freely. So you're not allowed to say anything against any jokes or any comments against the government or the country, because you could be sent again to prison just for that. Or at minimum kicked out of the, Communist Party. And then, like I said, many doors would be closed for you. You would be kind of like an outcast. So, and right now, so we are trying to have freedom. Some people, like if they cannot wear a mask or don't want to wear a mask, so, and other people are yelling at them, attacking them. That's what I see. So if you're somehow different, from the mask, not following the orders, that they, just like in Russia, they would say, oh, that's the enemy of the state. So, and you were allowed to, call the police on them or whatever. That's what they do right now. So they put in people against each other. And so before I was born, obviously, when it was just after the revolution, that's what they said to people. That's what they promised to people. They said, okay, let's do the revolution, Lenin said, right? So let us all be equal, And so let's destroy all the churches because it's opium for masses. Let's kill all the owners of big factories and stuff, and let's take the ownership of those things. So we will take their money. So you are not allowed to be rich. So we will kill you. We'll take your riches. But those riches were not enough for all the, poor people. So nothing really changed. They still stayed poor slaves, but they became murderers. So, but they destroyed privately owned businesses, and that's what they're doing right now, destroying the middle class, because during communism there's no middle class. There's just the government, which owns everything, and poor slaves, which work all their life just for a crumb of bread, and they're happy about it. Okay, I got my one room in a two-room apartment with another family. I should be happy. I'm not in the dorm anymore. So it's very sad and scary. So what I'm observing right now, that in this country people had pretty comfortable lifestyle. They lost critical thinking. They trust the government way too much, and they became lazy, and so they fell asleep. And they allow their rights to be taken pretty fast, one after the other, and they're not even noticing it. And one of the dangers is freedom of speech, with all the censorship going on, freedom, people are being, silenced, killed, or channels shut down, videos removed, threats and everything. And so when there's no freedom of speech, so there is even less possibilities for people who are awake and understand what's happening to bring this information to those who are asleep and to warn them of dangers. So, propaganda right now is, widespread. I can see another thing which is being taken away is a right to defend yourself. They're trying to take our guns away, and that's another big danger. Not only need protection from dictatorship if it happens, but like from even desperate people who lost their jobs, who don't have, food or whatever other things, and they will start breaking into our houses, and we cannot even protect ourselves. So it's another bad thing I can see happening. And those are two rights from the Constitution, and so Constitution, they're trying to remove the Constitution, and so with that, all our rights, and so we will become slaves. So that's what I can see happening. My advice is, do not listen to this marketing pitch about how great socialism is, or as if there is such thing as democratic socialism. Open history books if needed, watch documentaries, whatever is still available, not deleted. There's so many people who escaped socialist and communist countries, and they came here for freedom. And like anybody can talk to them, and they can tell their stories. They're so much the same, with some minor details. So they're being offered supposedly free healthcare and free education, but in Russia we have a very good saying, free cheese is only in the mousetrap. So that's a trap for people, for lazy people who are not thinking right now for themselves and who are living in fear already, and so who are hoping for the government to resolve all their problems, we're given all our rights and freedoms away, just take care of us, babysit us. And so that's very dangerous. And the last point is that democratic socialism doesn't exist in nature, because under democracy, people have voice. They, together with government, decide on many important things. So, socialism/communism is based on tyranny and dictatorship, where people don't have any voices and any power to decide things. So they're not compatible. So it doesn't exist, this thing.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story